The death penalty is a big controversial ethical issue that divides the American population. Everybody has an opinion about it, so the ethical question being asked is, should the death penalty be allowed? To start, what even is the death penalty? The death penalty is an act of execution of an offender sentenced to death after conviction by a court of law of a criminal offense. It is legal in 24 out of 50 states. A person in these states may be sentenced to the death penalty if they are found guilty of the following: treason, which levies war against the United States and gives comfort to the enemy, or persons who deliver or attempt to deliver information pertaining to the national defense of the United States to agents or subjects of foreign countries with intent or reason to believe that it is to be used to give a disadvantage to the United States, or a person commits wartime espionage. Another reason would be intentionally killing the victim. A third reason is intentionally inflicted seriously bodily injury that resulted in the death of a victim. Fourth is intentionally participated in an act contemplating that the life of a person would be taken or intending that the lethal force would be used in connection with a person other than one of the participants in the offense, and the victim died as a result of the act. And lastly, intentionally and specifically engaged in an act of violence, knowing that the act created a grave risk of death to a person other than the one of the participants in the offense, such that the participation in the act constituted a reckless disregard for human life and the victim died as a result of the act. They shall be sentenced to death. The sentence of death must be justified, except that nobody can be sentenced to death if they were less than 18 years old when the crime was committed. So there is no question that if you commit a crime, that there should be a consequence listed. The executions in the United States have been hanging, electrocution, gas chamber, firing squad, and lethal injection. Lethal injection is the type of execution that is chosen first, but if a state cannot get a hold of the drug, then they will use one of the alternative methods listed above. There have been 1,354 injections done since 1976. Electrocutions have been used 163 times. Gas chambers have been used 11 times. Hanging has been used 3 times, and firing squad has also been used 3 times. While these executions do cost millions per year, which is much more expensive than life without parole, but that is because much more has to go into these trials since we are talking about taking someone's life. So there is the ethical issue. Is taking somebody else's life ethically okay if they take somebody else's? Think about, for example, serial killers, specifically Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was a good-looking guy and used that to his advantage to take women and murder them. He was able to escape not once, but twice. He kidnapped, raped, and killed over 30 women in 7 different states. This is an extreme case, but he was locked up and escaped and continued to murder women and children. He clearly showed no remorse and left many families hurt and distraught. Is there justice for this family if he gets to just sit in jail forever? Or think about a more recent case with Dylann Roof. He walked into a church and openly killed 9 people with no remorse either. He was eventually sentenced to death, but he has not received his death sentence yet. My problem with leaving him just sitting on death row is everybody knows he is the one who committed the crime, so I am not sure what they are waiting on. Based on the ethical and moral beliefs, I think killing somebody or doing wrong against the United States government should result in death instead of sitting in prison, where we will still have to pay for them to sit there anyway. I have been raised on the fact that the 2 wrongs don't make a right, but I think in cases like mass murders and turning on your country are cases where death is the result. From research I have done on what jails are like based on people who have been in jails, is that the food is not great, but they have access to cable TV and are allowed to do things that don't require them just to sit and think and look at a wall. They are allowed phone calls, though I would not want to be sitting in jail because it is much worse in the real world, but committing these crimes and taking someone's life is not ethically right. Therefore, I think the defendant should not be able to stay alive while an innocent person is there dead in a grave. If lethal injection is the form of execution used, it is a painless way to die. The thing with the death penalty is it costs a lot of money, millions of dollars. 4% of people who get sentenced to death are innocent. I think when there is no question about who committed the crime, then the death penalty should be in place and it should happen soon after trials. There is no reason for them just to sit on death row for years and years. Now, if there is a question or not enough evidence of the person committing the crime, then that is when the death penalty should not be an option. There needs to be a 100% certainty, but that is where a lot of money can be spent to prove someone's guilty. The issue will always create a divide in the United States. It depends on a person's morals and ethics. The United States government does not find this unconstitutional, but some state governments do. As of 2020, 53 countries will still use the death penalty. For example, Singapore is known for a low crime rate, and they still have the death penalty. People in Singapore face very severe penalties for small crimes. This is a whole other conversation, but allowing people who commit big crimes in America to just sit in jail does not scare a lot of individuals from committing crimes altogether.